15,000 subscribers. I can't thank you guys enough for all the support throughout the entirety of this channel. And hey, it continues to grow. So thank you guys. But today we have year 2 of March Madness. Last year, well, it's kind of the Brandon Miller show. But Bakari, you're joining us yet again for year 2 of March Madness. It's one of the funnest times of the year. How you doing on this Tuesday morning?
Man, I'm doing great. Like you said, it's one of the best times of the year sports wise. We got the bracket to fill out, and what's better than watching like 5 total college basketball games and then saying I'm taking Yale over Auburn. Nothing better. But I'm not saying I'm doing that. But it's just the beauty of it.
Yeah, we'll talk about that here in a moment. But without further ado, let's get into it. And I have some important trends for you guys to know ahead of March Madness. I'm sure you guys have heard these elsewhere, but if you haven't, let me dial you in. Of course, 100% of national champions since 2004 were ranked top 12 in the Week 6 AP poll. That is 12 teams that are included in this bracket. 100% of the national champions since 2002 have had a top 40 Ken Pop offense and a top 22 Ken Pop defense, whatever Ken Pop is, right? 100% of national champions since 1993 have made their conference tournament finals. And then, on average, there are about 13 upsets in March Madness each and every year. Of course, that's just depending on the seeding. And then, some other things for you guys. No team has repeated champions since 2007. The Florida Gators, of course. I'm wearing my gear here. And out of all those things, no coach has had a beard. No coach of a Final Four team has ever had a beard, Bakari. I don't know. That's something that I just found out there. Regardless, the only 3 teams that fit all of those criteria going into this year are Purdue, Houston, and UConn. But UConn repeated, so they aren't. So Purdue and Houston should be one of our winners. But with all of that said, if you still made it through, we're not going to follow any of that. It's March Madness, baby. Anything can happen. Hey, like you said, if Yale's going to beat Auburn, Yale's going to beat Auburn. Bakari, we're going to go through this bracket together. UConn, Stetson, who do you have winning?
I'm taking UConn there.
Yeah,
Stetson wins. I'm going to lose my house.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, UConn, from what I hear, most complete team in college basketball. FAU Northwestern, we know these 8-9 matchups. Technically, it's an upset if Northwestern were to win, but who would you take here, the Owls or more so the Wildcats?
I'm gonna take the Wildcats here. I feel like 8-9 matchups, like you mentioned, 9 is an upset technically, but those are the best games usually because it's like who do you? There's no clear-cut winner going.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And purple's pretty cool. I mean, who for the Owls, right? Anyway, San Diego State, they play, they get up and down. And I know one thing about San Diego State, they play defense and they shoot a lot of threes. I'm going to take them over the UAB Dragons. Auburn and Yale, you talked about it before. Who do you have winning this 4-13 matchup? Yale, I'm sure they got the smarts, but do they have the skills to compete with a team that a lot of people have winning the tournament?
Well, no, they don't. Yale was here because I don't know if you saw that game winner. I don't know if you saw that game winner that they had, but in the conference championship, but that was pretty fluke. I mean, the guy bounced past it to a guy that was on a block wide open, and he shot a left-handed shot like right next to the hoop for the game. I was like, wow, how do you leave him that open? But no, I got Auburn winning that. Auburn has really turned into a consistently good basketball program once again. So
no doubt about it. BYU, we're gonna have over. I'm just gonna go past that. Illinois. No, Illinois plays a lot of good defense, and I know year in year out. Of course, they are definitely on top of the list as far as contenders. Do you think Morehead State has a chance here?
Every team has a chance, but I take Illinois too. Illinois has been quality for the past few seasons, I believe.
Washington State or Drake. 7-10 matchup, of course, these go up in the air. And you know what? I'm going to get it out the way. Iowa State is going to win here at the bottom of the bracket. But Washington State or Drake, which route are you going? Because I could care less.
Let's go Drake. Let's go Drake.
Yeah, we haven't had an upset this side of the bracket.
Yeah, I'm just feeling it in my soul. Drake's going to win.
Yeah, no doubt about it. North Carolina here in the western side of the bracket, they're going to win, whether if it's against Howard or whoever else. Of course, those games are coming up here in just a couple days, but North Carolina, one of the contenders for a reason, year in and year out. Of course, they're on top of the mountain. Mississippi State or Michigan State. I've seen a lot of people frustrated that Michigan State even made the March Madness bracket. So are you okay going with a team like Mississippi State?
Yeah, we're going Mississippi State. I was actually I was in Michigan when the selection was happening, and it was a funny time. So Mississippi State, come on.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Now we get to an interesting one: St. Mary's and of course Grand Canyon 5-12 matchup. We of course know this is one of the more popular teams in Grand Canyon. It looks like they got two guards that average 20 and 14. I know they're a popular upset pick here, but I mean, hey, at least one 12 seed has defeated a 5 seed in 32 of the 38 March Madness tournaments. So we at least got to have one of them.
And I'd say Grand Canyon has as good a shot as any.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Alabama and Charleston. Look, I know one thing about Alabama this year. For the gambling addiction that I do have, they score a lot of points, and they're the number one offense in the entire college basketball season this year. And they run up and down. They don't play defense, but they run it up and down, and they shoot a lot of threes, and they score a lot of points. So I think over Charleston, I think pretty safe.
Yeah, I think Brandon Miller got this one.
Yeah, Brandon Miller got this one, right? New Mexico and Clemson. I know New Mexico is a very popular upset pick here over the Tigers. Of course, the Lobos. Looks like they got a big man and looks like a wing
play.
I'm sorry? Jamal Mashburn? No doubt about it. Man. Where are you going here?
I'm going Clemson. Clemson, yeah. I want to go Clemson there. I want to go Clemson.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I know Arizona's really, really good. Of course, they're a popular pick for a reason. I'm going to get that out of the way. They're going to win there. Baylor, I like the Bears. Shout out to Robert Griffin III. They're going to pull away with that one. Josh Gordon as well, right? Browns legend. Dayton, of course, in 2020, they had a guy by the name of Obi Toppin, and they were a very solid college basketball team. But, of course, COVID happened, and we never got March Madness that year. But since then, they've remained afloat, and they've been a really good program. Do you have Dayton coming away with the win here over the Nevada? I guess, do you have them taking a win over Nevada?
Yeah, I have them winning this one here.
All right, let's go ahead. Let's go over to the right side.
In Obi Toppin's memory, yep.
Yeah. Tennessee or St. Peter's? Let's go Tennessee. They have Dalton Doncic, okay? Dalton Knecht, I know, is actually going to be a top 5 pick here in this upcoming draft. Right next to that guard we'll talk about in a moment from Kentucky. But I think Dalton Knecht and Tennessee, actually, they play very, very, very solid defense as well. I've watched a couple Tennessee games this year for the very few college basketball games I've watched. I've watched a lot of SEC. I'm an SEC guy, right?
Yeah.
Dalton Doncic is pretty solid. Texas, I think we could say, is going to get a win here. Creighton, Bakari, I'm a big fan of Creighton. I've actually watched some Creighton games this year, and they fit those criteria all the way into the point of they didn't win their conference tournament. So I think they'll be in the running, but of course, maybe they don't take it home. South Carolina and Oregon. Go ahead.
It's funny because on that Creighton and Akron matchup, that should probably be Kent State, because Akron won the game versus Penn State off of somebody intentionally fouling after they were up 1. That's about as crazy as a way to lose any.
That was actually crazy because I don't understand. Maybe the guy thought that they were up. I'm assuming he thought that they were up 2 or 3, and that's why he was like, "Let's send them to the line." But even then, why? Or maybe he thought they were down. Regardless,
I don't know. That is wild.
Yeah, we gotta check up on him every single week. Anyway, South Carolina Gamecocks or the Oregon Ducks. Which one are you taking here in this 6-11 matchup?
Oh, I feel like Oregon will pull this one out. I feel like it, even though, I mean, they do have 11 losses, but I just kind of feel like, but I forgot. Meechie Johnson is in South Carolina now. Ohio wasn't.
Yeah. Maybe we go that way.
I was about to say, you know what? I'm gonna actually change it solely because I forgot Meechie Johnson was in South Carolina. South Carolina is gonna win this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Looks like they're pretty solid all around, but again, not against top 25 teams. But neither is Oregon or Oregon, however you want to say it. But I do know N'Faly Dante. He's going to be in the draft this year, of course. Shout out to 2K. Kansas, Samford. I know these next 2 matchups we can actually look into here, as I know Kansas, of course, a blue blood. They're here each and every year. It's like clockwork for them. But then Samford, this is a team that's kind of came out of nowhere. A core, I know, is a big man, and the dude is a monster on the court. I've actually seen some clips of him. Haven't watched the game, I'll be honest with you. But I know Kansas, of course, they have they've been here before, right? They know what it takes. But a core, probably the best player in this game. I guess here, let's take a look at it here. Samford, that's where it is. They average 86 points a game, but they don't play any real competition, at least not on the level of Kansas. So which route do you want to go with here? Do you want to go with the upset in the story of Samford, or the team that's been here, done that year after year?
Uh, Kansas has some hoopers. Like I forgot that Hunter Dickinson was in Kansas and not Michigan. And he's averaging 18 and 10. He's their second best player. So I think I'm gonna go Kansas, even though Samford can get up and down. I feel like if you get into a game where you're letting them each team's best player score, Kansas is going to win that one.
And then we get into Gonzaga and McNeese State. Of course, McNeese State has two guards that score a lot. They get up and down, and I guess, hey, Christian Shamate is averaging 12 and 10 as a wing or a guard there. Regardless, Gonzaga comes in, more experience. We know they play defense each and every year, and they shoot a lot of threes. McNeese State, it definitely is an upset, but it's a popular upset pick. And as you see here, tail of the tape, Gonzaga, averages more points, but they give up more points as well. Again, competition, we have to take that into a part. But again, it is March Madness. Anything can happen. Bakari, McNeese State or Gonzaga? I'll leave this one up to you.
You know what? McNeese State. Give me them.
McNeese State. Let's do it. Gonzaga, they've been there. They've done that. But we've seen it before, right?
We've seen Gonzaga choke before, is what I have to say about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Purdue will take Zach Edey, and of course, the National Player of the Year against whoever that seed is. And you know what? I think great Osabor, right? I think this dude is great. Bakari? No, okay. No, I'm just joking. But
that's crazy.
Yeah, right. No, Jordan.
I saw Jameer Nelson there. I think Jameer Nelson is going to be an all-time NBA legend.
Okay. Well, shout out to Jordan Love. He went to Utah State, and I'm going to take him here in this matchup here. Marquette in Western Kentucky. We're going to take Marquette of Florida. Bakari, I'm sorry. You don't have a choice in this first round matchup. I'm a Gators fan. We're going to roll with the Gators here in round one. They're actually really, really solid. Moving over to Kentucky and Oakland. Of course, shout out to Dame Dollar. But moving over to this matchup, of course, Kentucky comes in as the odds-on favorite for good reason. Antonio Reeves and Rob Dillingham, of course, Bakari, maybe the best overall player in this entire bracket. Your thoughts here about this matchup and how great Kentucky's top two guys are?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that, Rob Dillingham's doing this off the bench, and, he's not mentioned here, but Reed Sheppard as well. He's probably going to be, at the last time I saw that some mock drafts have him, Reed Sheppard, going top 5 as well. As Robert Dillingham going top 5, top 10. I remember watching Rob Dillingham highlights last year when he was finishing up high school, and it was kind of like, it was weird because I didn't know if he would really translate to college, as crazy as that sounds, but he's done that. And now, people are saying, if don't let him play with Wemby or it's going to be a dynamic duo. So, obviously all the skill sets there for Kentucky to win it. But I feel like that's what these Blue Bloods do every year. They always have the talent to win it. It just comes down to maybe, heart over height, I guess.
Let's go to the top of the bracket and work our way down. Of course, Zoom is not the most willing, or giving rather. Houston over Longwood. Pause. I'm going to go Houston here. It might be the most complete team in college basketball. Nebraska or A&M. Your thoughts here? 8-9 matchup. It's kind of in the air.
I'm going to go Nebraska. I feel like these Big Ten matchups are always kind of, whenever they get a chance, they can always play when they need to. TJ Bickerstaff. Wow. I hope he's not related to JB because, folks, I'll tell you what, the IQ will be running low on that one.
But with that said, I mean, hey, James Madison's 31-3. They're a very popular pick. They score a lot of points, and I know that they protect the ball fairly well. Do we want to go James Madison here in the upset?
Yes.
Let's go James Madison to take on Duke in the second round. Moving over to the final first-round matchup, Texas Tech, NC State. I know Texas Tech, of course, defensive powerhouse like they typically are each and every year. Pop Isaacs and Joe Toussaint take on DJ Burns and DJ Horn. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is DJ Burns that guy that just was in the news about being kind of compared? He compared himself to the body type of Zach Randolph, the guy that
he might be. Why don't you click on him? Let's see what is it? Is it?
I might not be able to click on him, but here let's scroll down. I know I know he's one of those guys that plays kind of like a guard. He has a lot of finesse to his game, but of course, This is difficult. It won't let me click on the actual man in DJ Burns. I could be wrong, but regardless,
Al Jefferson.
Al Jefferson style player. Shout out to Al Jefferson, by the way. Carved out an underrated NBA career. But do we want to go Texas Tech with the defense or NC State maybe with the upset here?
We're going Texas Tech. Texas Tech, I feel like has made it, far in the past few years, like each of the past few years. But
yeah, no doubt about it. We're gonna start over here back in the East with UConn and Northwestern. I think it's pretty safe. We can go with UConn here, unless we want to have an upset. Moving over to San Diego State and Auburn. I'm an SEC guy. You know where I lean, but San Diego State, of course, a team that always plays defense and shoots a lot of threes. Which route do we want to go here? Of course, we can break it down going into it. Of course, San Diego State 24-10, Auburn 27-7. You look at some of these top guys, Jalen Williams. We don't need another Jay Williams in the NBA. But I mean, for Auburn, 12-4-2. Johnny Broome, I've actually heard a lot of good things about him. I know he's projected to be drafted this year, 16-8. But on the other side with San Diego State, they have a guy that's averaging 21-8. Looks like a big man there with Jaden Leday. Which route do you want to go here in a 4-5 matchup to take on UConn?
I'm gonna still take Auburn. I feel like I said, they, as crazy, as it sounds, saying Auburn isn't established in the basketball world. They are at least for the past few years, and in honor of Jabari Smith Jr.
But moving over to Illinois and BYU, I think we're pretty safe with going to Illinois here. Of course, dominant March Madness team the last couple of years.
I think Zach Wilson might suit up for BYU.
Yeah, well, he might, put us all on. We might start to believe in Zach Wilson again if he suits up for BYU to get again. We might say, hey, this dude should be drafted over Caleb Williams. Anyway, Drake or Iowa State. I think we're pretty safe going with the favorite here in Iowa State. Of course, I know from all the March Madness experts that I've seen fill out their brackets, they say the East is pretty cut and dry, where you're going to have the top 4 seeds there because they have a lot of the great conference champions in that side of the bracket. North Carolina and Mississippi State here in the West in the round of 32. Do we want to go with North Carolina?
Yes, we do.
Carolina. And then we have an interesting matchup here. Grand Canyon, Alabama, 2 teams that shoot a ton of threes. This game might go over 200 points in a college basketball game. But which route do you want to lean here? I guess we can dive into it. I just want to see the crazy stats. But I know Alabama is a team that I've bet a lot of overs on. Mark Sears, 21 a game. And of course, on the left side, you have 2 guards that are doing their thing as well. Which route do we want to go? Do we want to go with the Grand Canyon route or Alabama to advance in the bracket?
Oh, man.
We can come back to it. We can
always come back to it. You pick for me.
You know what? We're gonna go to Alabama. You know why? Because I've watched Alabama games. I'm an SEC guy, and it's not the upset pick. But you know what? Alabama is gonna shoot a lot of threes, and they, you know what? It's more so of the point of, can Grand Canyon keep up? But of course, Alabama plays no defense, so any team can really have a chance. Clemson and Baylor. This is a classic football matchup. But of course, I think we can be safe here. Take Arizona at the bottom. Do we want to go Clemson, Baylor? I guess it's to the point where, I wish, actually, Bakari, randomly here, I wish they would give us a chance to actually, just click to the next matchup on this website. Regardless, that's just a gripe. But PJ Hall looks like he averages 19-7. And this is terrible. This is something this podcast is not really based on. We don't just look at stats and say, hey, this dude is good at basketball. But we're in foreign land here in college basketball. Gotta do what we got to do, right? So PJ Hall looks like he averages 19-7. Jacoby Walter, 14.
I've actually heard a lot about Jacoby Walter, though.
Yes. So we want to go Baylor on this one then?
Ah, man.
It is boring. But
let's go Baylor. Yeah.
Sometimes 1 + 1 = 2, right? 2 + 2 = 4. We don't have to always complicate it. Moving over here, Texas and Tennessee. Do we want to go Dalton Doncic? Or from what I've seen out of Tennessee, I think Tennessee will go far into the tournament. This bracket is terrible because I like Creighton. We're going to keep Creighton in the bracket. This bracket is terrible because we just got favorites. Okay, but here's where it gets interesting.
Watch it stand like significantly longer than it should.
Yeah, right. I mean, this bracket's busted in the first round. One of these teams is guaranteed to lose. McNeese State or Kansas? Do we want to keep the Cinderella story of a McNeese State? or Kansas continuing their run?
No, we're McNeese State all the way, baby.
Yeah, McNeese State. You know, there's like my dad had a philosophy. Shout out to him, of course, if you're listening. He had a philosophy, and it's kind of worked the last couple of years, where it's really you have two 1 seeds. You have two 1 seeds that make the Final Four. You have 1 2 seed, and then you have an off seed. And it seems to work every year, where that off seed can be a 10, 11 seed. It could be an 8 seed or 6 seed. You get the picture. But typically, it's usually two 1 seeds, a 2 seed, and an off seed. Regardless. Purdue, Utah State. I couldn't tell you a thing about Utah State, but do you think that Zach Edey can finally get past the second round of March Madness?
I think he'll get past the second round. I don't think he'll get past the third round.
Hey, we'll start there. Purdue or McNeese State? Do we want to go
McNeese State?
McNeese
Zach who?
State.
Zach Edey. You know what's crazy? I was. Where was I? I was somewhere.
25 and 12 is insane for college basketball.
It is, but you know, all giants have a weak spot. All Goliaths have a David. And I remember watching Zach Edey bank in his first three from the top of the key, like not like I want to say a few months ago. It was wild, but yeah, that's how I wanted to throw that in there.
No
I didn't know it was Zach Edey. It was like on a big screen. It was a lot of people. I didn't know it was Zach Edey shooting the ball, and I'm like, hold on, that was Goliath himself shooting that bad boy.
Moving over though to the bottom side of the bracket, Creighton. Of course, a team that for some I just like Creighton. You know, like a team like Tulane is one of those weird colleges I like. Creighton is another one of those weird colleges I like. But they have a guy 18-9-4. And also Trey Alexander, 17-6-5, great numbers. But then they're facing probably, arguably the best player in this bracket, and Dalton Knecht, Doncic, whatever you want to call him, right? But this is a guy that is averaging 21-5, a guy that can single-handedly win Tennessee the entire tournament. But of course, he also has the supporting cast. Do we want to go with Creighton here to meet McNeese State in the Final Four, or do we want to go with Tennessee and Dalton Knecht?
Tennessee. We gotta make it interesting for McNeese.
McNeese State. This is terrible. Moving over to Baylor and Arizona. Do we want to go with Baylor? I know Arizona is a popular pick to pretty much win this entire tournament. I know it's tough here. We could dive into the matchup because Arizona I know is a very popular pick. They have Caleb Love.
Oh yeah, no, we gotta go Arizona because they do.
Yeah, I kind of forgot they had Caleb Love.
Yeah, I forgot that too.
Moving over, Alabama and North Carolina. Alabama, of course, they're really just like the Indiana Pacers in the NBA. Bakar, if you haven't watched them, they're a team that just gets up and down 7 seconds or less, and they're shooting as many threes as possible. But Baycott, of course, for the Tar Heels, and of course RJ Davis. I know Baycott's been around for a while. I think it's his last year. It's his last chance. Yeah. Do we want to go with North Carolina, the safer team?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I didn't forget that they had RJ Davis, but it just kind of slipped my mind that RJ Davis was active right now for whatever reason, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no
just
doubt.
Slipped my mind that RJ Davis was here.
And then UConn and Auburn. Which route do we want to go? Do we want to go UConn to advance to the Elite Eight? Or is it going to be Auburn, the team, of course, let's take a look at it. UConn, 31-3, of course, reigning champions. Tristan Newton, killing it. Same as Cam Spencer. Do we want to go with UConn here?
Yeah, let's go UConn.
Okay, UConn. Okay, I would have went with the upset because I don't like UConn. I don't like the Huskies. Anyway.
That's why it's going to be even funnier when we do pick the upset on them.
Yeah, no. Iowa State or Illinois. Illinois, of course, defensive powerhouse. Iowa State, I can imagine, is pretty much the same. Illinois, they've got a dude averaging 23.
Yeah, I can't. It's funny because as we're going through these teams, it'll be after the fact, but then I'll be like, oh yeah, I can't believe I actually watched this team play, and that player Terrence Shannon, TSJ, Terrence Shannon Jr. I just watched him play the other day. He took over versus I think they were playing Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And I did watch that game. So
Illinois is always a pretty good team. I haven't got to watch an Illinois game this year, but I've seen highlights. And like you mentioned there, it's like we don't keep up with it as much as the diehard college basketball fan. But it's like when we see these players, it's like, oh, we know this player. We know what they can do. It's just a matter of we're not as in tuned as others. Regardless, Houston, Nebraska. Do we want to go with the Cornhuskers or the odds-on favorite here on the right side of the bracket?
Let's go Houston.
Okay, let's go Houston. James Madison and Duke, of course, one of the 4 Blue Bloods, or a James Madison team, of course, has a dynamic backcourt, but Kyle Flipkowski, Jeremy Roach, or, Roche, however people want to pronounce those now. But when we take a look at the tail of the tape, James Madison averages more points, but they give up, just about the same amount of points as Duke. So it's a pretty even kill matchup. Duke actually has a worse record against the top 25, but again, harder competition. I'm sure harder strength of schedule throughout the entire season. What do we want to go with here? Do we want to have Duke meet with Houston to create a big time matchup, or James Madison continuing their run?
It's tough because I feel like this Duke team, like I have seen a few of their games. I feel like they haven't played consistently. Like,
yeah,
as crazy as it sounds, even though their record says otherwise. But sometimes you'll watch a game and it's like, oh, they're losing this game and they might have to come back. But I will say Duke. I will say Duke.
Shout out to Paulo Banchero, right? This dude is the sports books, by the way. Bakari, they have this Paulo Banchero's line at like 21 points a night. So all he needs to do is get 22 points. The dude averages like 25. So I just take Paulo Banchero's points every single day, and it's money, right? Now, whether if the rest of my parlay hits, that's a different story. Texas Tech or Kentucky, Rob Dillingham, of course, in his Devin Booker mode, right? Coming off the bench for Kentucky. Do we want to continue to have them advance in the bracket?
Yeah, I think this team has the makeup to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Florida Marquette. We'll actually dive into this matchup because I don't know anything about Marquette. I know, of course, shout out to Dwayne Wade. But as
shout out Jimmy Butler, baby.
Jimmy Butler. I don't know. He was a more recent one. I probably should have went with him, right?
I think Jay Crowder went there too.
Jay Crowder? That's a random pool. But Cam Jones, 17-3. 17-3. Tyler Kolek looks like a 15-5 and 8 assists a game. Plays the game the right way, right? A guy that can't leave the film room. But on the other side, of course, Florida, I've actually watched a decent amount of their games. Florida, it's an SEC team, right? They have Walter Clayton, 17, 3.5, and 2.5. But the Zylan Pullen, of course, averaging 16. This is a Florida team that's won me some money this year. But Marquette here is definitely probably the favorite. But which route do we want to go here? Marquette or Florida to face Kentucky?
Speaking with your heart.
You know what?
You know who you want to pick.
I think Marquette's going to win. No, I'm just joking. Come on, man. Florida, the Florida Gators. Come on, man. We're going to the Elite Eight to, go to eventually win this tournament here. But then, so we have our final, our Elite Eight set. So you know what? Actually, well, we have to finish this matchup here. What do we want to go with Houston or Duke here to advance to the Elite Eight?
I'll take Houston. That's where I'm going to take Houston there.
Yeah, we'll take Houston, a little bit more consistent for us. Kentucky or Florida. As a Florida fan, I'm okay with saying Kentucky here in this matchup. Okay, well, we'll take Kentucky.
I like that because I don't even know if we mentioned his name. If you're still listening out there, I didn't forget about Reed Shepherd. If we mentioned Kentucky fans that we did mention him, but I just wanted to throw that out there. I didn't forget about top 5 pick in the draft, Reed Shepherd.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And then we get into McNeese State and Dalton Doncic. This is the matchup of the tournament here, Bakari. Do we want to go with the best player, or do we want to go with the fun Cinderella kind of story?
Fun Cinderella story, baby. Come on, McNeese State.
Come on, man. McNeese.
You know what's crazy? No disrespect to McNeese State. Where is McNeese at?
If you ask me, I'm going to say Alaska.
Hey, man, I mean, might as well be. It won't matter where you're from. It matters who you beat on the way to the championship.
I'm going to guess in the South, right? Probably in Louisiana. And then North Carolina and Arizona. Do we want to go with, I think this is really a toss-up kind of a matchup. I'll leave this up to you, just like you did with the Florida matchup for me.
North Carolina.
Let's go North Carolina, right?
Mando Bacat, he's been there forever. It's like you mentioned, this is last year. And RJ Davis, I think he's player of the year.
I think Zach Edey took home national player of the year, but he could have taken home.
I think he was in a running.
Yeah, okay, in the run, no doubt about it. But The bottom half of our Final Four set, North Carolina and McNeese State. Who's going to meet them here in Glendale, Arizona? We'll start here with, of course, with North Carolina. Who's going to meet with them? Illinois or UConn? The reigning champs in UConn, of course, they check all the boxes and they pass all the metrics that say this team has a chance to go back-to-back. However, history says we haven't had a back-to-back champion in a long time since my Florida Gators. Or Illinois. Illinois, of course, defensive-minded team. We can take a look into this matchup here relatively quickly. Terrence Shannon. you talked about him, of course. It looks like they have two guys that can really score the ball. UConn's not too far behind. UConn is definitely a well-oiled machine, probably more so than Illinois. But your thoughts here about this matchup? 1-3, who is going to meet? I just want your opinion. Who do you think is going to meet North Carolina here in the Final Four?
Because college is hard to repeat, like you said, I'm taking Illinois. It's like I
agree. I was going to go with the fighting. What are they? Regardless, I was going to take Illinois here as well. Just not a UConn fan, man. I would have took Auburn, and now I'm going to take Illinois. At the end of the day, Houston and Kentucky. This is a really interesting matchup. You have maybe your most defensive-minded team, Houston. A lot of people's odds-on favorite to win this whole thing. Of course, they have a very deep roster. From what I know about Houston, last couple of years they've been Final Four, Elite Eight, in that range. But then you have Kentucky. They maybe have the best couple players in the game with Antonio Reeves, Rob Dillingham, and some other pieces here you can argue for Kentucky. Your thoughts here about this matchup? Who would you lean? And I'll see if we align here before we get into the Final Four.
As crazy as it sounds, I think I'm still going to take Houston here.
I was going to take Houston.
I have seen, heard a little bit of the noise about Kentucky, sometimes kind of lowering their level or not playing to the level of some of their opponents. And I mean, that can, obviously when it's, win or go home, that can hurt you negatively. And Houston hasn't really had that problem over the past few years.
So unironically and unintentionally, that kind of metric that I threw out at you right before we started about the 2-1 seeds, a 2 or 3 seed and then an off seed, kind of came true here. Of course, with North Carolina and Houston being the 1 seeds, Illinois at the 3, not a 2, but close enough. And then McNeese State, of course, the team of the tourney. But in the Final Four here, we'll start on the left side. I think that's a little bit of a harder decision here to make. Illinois, do we have them taking down the North Carolina Tar Heels? Tough matchup here, of course. 26-8 for for Illinois. Of course, I got to remember their name. Regardless, the Tar Heels on the right-hand side, 27-7. Terrence Shannon against Armando Baycott and RJ Davis. Marcus Domask is, of course, a good name to throw out there as well. A lot of quality wins here, but let's look at this. Since 2007, number 1 seeds have won 14 of 17 meetings versus number 3 seeds. The last one was by the number 3 seed Texas Tech over Gonzaga in 2019 of the Elite Eight. Of course, you see that stat there in the middle of your screen, but we look at the tail of the tape. The fighting, was it they're the fighting something. I gotta look it up here in just a moment. It's gonna drive me crazy. But Illinois, they're 1-4 against top 25 teams. However, they average about 84 a game and they give up about 10 less. So they average more points, but they also give up more points against, of course, one of the Blue Bloods. What are you thinking here? Who do you think is going to advance here to the final dance?
I want to take North Carolina. I feel like my gut's just telling me North Carolina.
Yeah, no,
that's what my gut is telling me.
Illinois had a great run. I was actually going to take Illinois here. So, you know what we got to do when we disagree on a matchup? Leave it up to Siri. So, what we're going to do is I'm going to flip a coin. Do you want heads or tails?
Give me tails never fails, baby. Tails never fails.
I actually always go with heads when it comes to flipping a coin. So, Illinois will be heads. North Carolina will be tails. And, of course, this is the best way to decide who's going to win in March Madness, right? So, Siri, flip a coin. I don't know if you heard that. It was very quiet. I can always redo it. But, of course, if you want to see, it was heads. Illinois is going to advance to the finals. And then we get into Houston and McNeese State. Houston Man, this is like the Warriors versus the 2018 Cavs. Like, McNeese, they shouldn't even be here in this matchup. On paper, it is a landslide. But, I mean, hey, it's March Madness. Anything can happen. McNeese State or Houston, Bakari, who you have going to the final dance?
Unfortunately, McNeese State and wherever your college, whatever state you're in, actually, because I've never heard of McNeese State. I'm sorry. Houston is winning that one.
I
Sorry,
agree.
wherever you are, McNeese State, Houston's winning that one.
The final matchup here, Houston, Illinois. Which route you going? I'm probably going to lean with Houston. It's the boring pick, but I think Houston is going to be able to take it home.
Nope, you got them this far. Illinois. I'm going Illinois.
Illinois. Okay, you know what that means? Hey, we got to flip another coin. Bakari, if you want to do the honors this time, just make sure your ringer's on, of course. I'll let you do it so you don't think it's rigged. Of course.
All right.
But I'm going to take heads again. I'll take heads for Houston.
All right. Hey, Siri, flip a coin.
It's
heads. I don't know if y'all heard that. It's heads. So man, heads never fails. It's apparently going to be my new motto from now on. Yeah, that's
Submit the
crazy.
bracket. We don't have an email. Come on, man. Houston is going to be our March Madness winners this year.